Live from the BoD studios, only 2 of them tonight, not 4. It is Playin and Slayin, episode 71, I think. I'm gonna
Yeah.
trust the show note label.
Yeah.
And this is kind of a State of the Union, brought to you by Ty and Troy. We are without our other 2 companions tonight, but the show must go on, so it's gonna be full of banter, and then I'm gonna ask Troy some hard hitting questions, kind of a hostful episode, as part of, I guess, a main topic / another banter category.
Yeah.
But probably a little more on the brevity side of things than the usual episode, but some cool stuff to share, talk about, and then obviously we'll be coming back likely next month, hopefully with a special guest and some other hosts joining us, maybe, or maybe not. But for now, Troy, I'm not gonna stray too much from our script. When you're playing and slaying, it's important to stay hydrated. So, what are you imbibing this evening?
All right. And I don't know if I've had this one before. I have Topo Chico, their
The
vodka and lemon. So figures a good. It's summertime. That's kind of the problem why we only have 2 of us is vacations and so forth. But figured it's a good.
Yeah,
Good.
those are tasty. They're like dangerously tasty.
Yeah.
Bought some. Might have been around Memorial Day, and they tasted kind of like a flavored water drink. Like it wasn't.
Yeah, there's a little bit of vodka to it. Like you do get that little. There's enough that you do get a good vodka vibe from it. But yeah, it's not. And I mean, I think they're only 5% alcohol or something anyway. But
those
they are
might,
nice.
Those might be the sponsored drink at BoDCon in July of 2023, 2024.
Yep. Yeah. This is
we'll
a
just
good
fill a
summer
cooler with
outside.
those and see how long they last.
Keep them ice cold and get
yeah,
hydrated while you're getting dehydrated. Yeah.
Speaking of summer beverages, I'm having a little Third Space Pils. So it's just their Pilsner light. I'd bought it when I made brats, and I use this to boil the brats versus buying some other beer. And
well, isn't that the I sometimes I have that problem. Like you go like, oh, I'm gonna grill out some brats. I'm like, oh, let me grab some beer. And I'm like, oh, I don't know if I have any beers I want to sacrifice to a brat god.
Pan. Yeah.
Right. It's like these are all kind of nice craft beers. I don't know if I want to do that. I have that problem every once in a while. Yeah.
Well, the key is 1 can of beer and 1 can of water, and then I just simmer them and put them on the grill. So.
Yeah. And hopefully, yeah. I mean, if you're not from Midwest Wisconsin, hopefully you know what a brat is and whatever.
Yeah. God forbid you haven't experienced a bratwurst. I mean, I can't imagine life without a brat, let alone many.
Yeah.
For more shows like this, check out the Goonhammer Media Network. More info at media.goonhammer.com.
All right, so Troy, let's dive in and let's talk about what we've been playing. I'll get started because we have some overlap here.
Yep.
As you and I had a game night after we recorded last and played the Marvel themed Zombicide game. Marvel Zombies, or is it Zombicide Marvel? I forget.
It is Marvel Zombies. Yeah, I think they bought the whole name, which was I think that was actually the comic book, right? Was called Marvel Zombies, and that's what the game is called. Yeah, people call it Zombicide Marvel or Marvel Zombicide, but it really is the name is Marvel Zombies.
And it flips the Zombicide kind of script on its head, and you are, although you're Marvel superheroes, you are zombies. And you are battling against SHIELD agents, other heroes. Kind of changes like how looting. There's no looting for equipment, but you can take zombie traits. And there's a hunger mechanic, which is very interesting. The more you go without devouring an enemy, the worse off you get.
Yeah.
You add dice to your attack pool, which is cool, but you limit the actions you can do, and you start taking damage when you max out your hunger. So you got to kind of offset your cool superpowers with eating something here and there, so you don't get too hungry.
Yeah, and the Devour is just a different kind of attack, and usually slightly weaker, if I remember right? Like it was just a hair bit weaker, and always had to be no range. It was always a thing. And if you go to your I don't know what they called it when you were super hungry, when you were at that's the only thing you could do, because that's the only, you're just at that level. All you're going to try and do is eat. So then you're kind of limited. You have some control, but you don't have a lot of control of your hero, or I guess zombie at the time.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was pretty cool. It changed the game up a little bit in a different way. The models are all really cool, like the zombie Hulk and Deadpool were pretty fun. And I mean, talk about expandable. Like you can bring in so many other heroes. And the one thing I do wish, and I think I talked about this when we were playing, is that you had a little more superpower like choice or selection, because each character has their one kind of superpower, and then you can augment it with different traits and different things, but it's only the one kind of power.
Yeah, they kept it pretty simple in that, but it was fun, and it was. I mean, I wasn't sure. I mean, it was pretty difficult. Again, we had to get your feet underneath you, because especially the hunger mechanic, because there was just some basic things like, when should you attack, and you have to think about because I think it was ones. I can't remember what it was. Like you roll ones, then you increase your hunger thing. So you had to be careful, like as kind of like everything else in Zombicide, right? The last thing you do in your turn, try and make sure it's not something that's going to put you in a bad state.
Yeah, it's
like in certain order. So
it's like a push your luck mechanic in a way. But like if you don't get it, it's terrible.
Right. But there were some times where we just did like, we should have done that in a different order, just to kind of limit our risk in some of that. And so I think as we got about halfway through them, we're kind of all right, we kind of get this, but it was still difficult. I can't remember. I think we didn't quite right. We kind of think we got some people. We didn't. No, we didn't. Right. We tried, and somebody got caught. Right.
Yeah. One of my characters got caught.
And we just could not get him out. And so I think everybody else, we ended up saying, we left him and whatever. So we took, we technically didn't win. We gave it a little asterisk for our first play, but it was fun. It was good to get it to the table, because it had been sitting on the shelf for a little bit, but
yeah, definitely. It was a good one. Then we've kept our Frosthaven campaign going, played with John and Josh, the Frosthaven 5. I think we're around level 4 or 5, and probably 12 scenarios or so in, maybe more. Having a ton of fun with that. I actually went and picked it up from Josh's, since we weren't going to get together for a few weeks, because I'll likely set it up and either run a solo or get Tom to play once with me, or show it to like my dad and him or something. So I've got it now and get to set it up on my game table for a little bit. But yeah, so been playing that quite a bit. I can't think of much.
And we're going into winter. We had just crossed into like our first, so it's gonna be interesting. Like our next kind of, I think when we left
our outpost gets shredded.
Yeah. We're gonna go through our first winter session, and it'll be interesting to see what that looks like. So
I'll bring it back over, and everything will be damaged and broken, and you guys will be like, "What happened?" I'll be like, "I played one session. This was one outpost event." And then because I couldn't get enough Frosthaven, I kind of restarted Gloomhaven with new characters on the computer on Steam, and played it a ton. I'm at a point where I have like 2 boss quests, and I've retired 4 or 5 characters.
Wow.
I'm like 60 quests completed or so. I don't know. There can't be that many left. I think I'm very close to like finishing Gloomhaven. Which I didn't think that was possible, but I just kind of over the last month or two have been playing a ton of Gloomhaven.
And you've been doing it solo, I assume, right? With how many solo? With
two characters.
2 characters. Okay. Yep. That's it. Yeah. Because I mean it when we were doing it with 4 people, and it just like right, you have to coordinate and talk and whatever. It just, it would take you a little. There's no way you could crank through. It was very much like us playing in real life. Like it takes a certain amount of time just to get through the scenarios.
Yeah, I mean, I
make
can
sure
do a
everybody's
quest
kind
in
of playing it like
15, 20 minutes. Just zip through it and
right. Yeah, because if you're only in your own head, it's a lot easier to make decisions and coordinate with that other person in your head. So it's like,
yeah, but I have to be close to like completion because usually you have 7 or 8 quests open. I have 2 quests. They're both boss encounter ones, and I'm sure maybe one leads to another chain or something, but I don't know how to find more quests to do. And then D&D, we got back after a short hiatus. Started playing again. I mean, I don't want to bore anyone with in our D&D campaign, but trying to mix in some difficult choices for you all, making it less about go here, kill X, get reward, and more about what do you all really want to do and accomplish, and motivations are quite different across the party. So playing with some of that dynamic.
Yeah, and it's interesting from, again, as we maybe foreshadowing, is we're going to talk a little bit about our book club check-in. I think as you look at our story of that campaign, right, you're seeing some character progression. You're seeing, right, we've had some characters move out, some new ones move in. Very different, right? We started out as like, hey, we're this mercenary, I want to say band is more than that, right? Mercenary, basically army of mercenaries, or company. Yep. That's right. Yeah, company of mercenaries, right? Everything was kind of built there, and then as things happen, whatever, and now we're very much kind of a group of, almost a group of adventurers, or what's left of the company. And making some different choices. It's definitely, if you look at that arc, right, it's kind of interesting how it's, I would say completely different, but how it's definitely changed over the last, I don't even know how long we've been playing. I have to go look at my notes. We've been a year-ish, probably a little more.
Probably close, yeah.
Yep. I can.
Some stops and starts and.
Yep. But looking forward to it. It's doing pretty good.
Anything else getting played by you?
No, it's not. Again, unfortunately, it's been a little summer vacation, graduations, other things. So I haven't even gotten together with Banter, John, or other people like that recently. But got some stuff. Yeah, got some stuff on the calendar though. So I think we'll
a little
get a couple
kill
more
team
games
night.
today. Yep,
kill team night with Eric coming up.
And then the road to 10th edition 40K. So
right around the corner, supposedly. Let's talk hobby. Speaking of road to 40K, I've kind of stalled out. I had been putting together some Necrons, and I went ahead and I started assembling some Saurus warriors out of the new box, and I kind of trimmed the Slan Starmaster from the sprue just to kind of see. There's a ton of sprues in that Seraphon limited edition box set. Like, it's just when you open it up, it's just thick with plastic. Lot of pieces, but never a bad thing. I need to really kind of kickstart, jump back into the hobby, doing some painting and stuff. And I've, between baseball and work and other stuff, just have hit a bit of, too much. My free time, I play video games, and there's not much free time. So need to get back to that, like try to do 30 minutes a day or something, or just little bits to motivate and go. How about you? I saw some hobby progress photos, which basically looked like a ton of plastic on one of your tables.
Yes. And so it's funny, it came out of continuing to kind of weed down the backlog and piles of stuff that I'm like pointing over there. So anybody who knows, that side of the basement is where there are many, many boxes of miniatures and things over there. But I was like, I have these 2 giant boxes of kind of the boarding action Into the Dark kill team terrain that's really cool. And I'm like, I really want to, And I was like, well, if I build it, then I can get rid of these 2 big giant boxes, and I have this terrain that I really want to do. So I would say the difficulty was that's a lot. 2 boxes, that stuff is a lot of terrain. So it's kind of been a 2 weekend. I think I spent 1 weekend just clipping, whatever, pulling stuff out, and then and then I just was able to start, and then kind of spray painting it is another adventure, because you want to, I'm taking, and again, our friends at Goonhammer, I stole some of the stuff on Smarticles there on how to paint it and whatever, but they were like, assemble it so that you're covering up all the different tabs, insert, and then paint, prime it and whatever, so that you don't have to worry about masking, because of what it took in 2 days to kind of mask and stuff. The only thing I did do is I did use just like blue tack there was a couple of things where the holes I didn't have, you can't fill every single hole as you assemble it. So I just filled those with blue tack when I did kind of a prime. And I did like a metallic, kind of a cheaper, it's like a cheap lead belcher, right, kind of thing, as a kind of a base. Figured it'd be good, because even literally, if I don't do anything else, you could throw this on the table. It's not terrible, right?
Yeah.
But I'll probably, again, the plan will be then hit it with probably some really easy dirty stuff. And I do have some, and also experiment. I did buy some of the dirty down, dirty spray. Again, I think it's like a dirty, it's like a supposed to like, and spray paint when I was at Adepticon. So that's partly, I might try that just on some pieces to see what it looks like. That's supposed to give things more of a grimy kind of thing. So maybe use that on like a bottom up or something like that. Just part of it, I just want to see what it looks like. I mean, they had some examples there, but that's exactly the kind of thing I was thinking of. It'd be interesting to see if it works. So we'll see. I'm pointing over here because it's all sitting over there, what I primed, and so I'm going to start putting the doors and things on, and then ends there. I got about half of it. I have another half that I need to assemble and take outside if we have a nice day here a little bit, crank that out. So yeah, so it's been a heavy hobby, but I don't have a lot to show for it. I have a lot, but I don't have anything super finished yet. But
yeah, very cool. And then some snap ships.
So I don't have one assemble. I should have grabbed. Sarah has them up here. So Ben, my brother, will he's been into this for, I don't know, this has been out there for about 2 years. I think we talked about a little bit.
It was a Gen Con find, right?
Yeah, it's a couple of years ago, I think, Gen Con, and they've been at Adepticon. So, and maybe I can do this. So basically it's like really cool. And I had never really I'd bought a bunch when I was with Ben, but I had never kind of played with it. And in the end, rainy days, it was because our summer kind of evaporated here in Wisconsin last weekend. And I'm kind of like, oh, Sarah, let's go check this out. She was, and then I didn't realize like she was all in. I got her kind of, and that's what got us hooked. But it is like, I don't know about you, but when we were young, we would take Legos and kind of build, and build spaceships and whatever. And this is like totally like kit built, and the spaceships are really cool. And then they have this app. They have an app actually that also like has the ships, like there's an AR part where you can actually like have the ship kind of in your living room or your basement or whatever to that. And then there's a complete assembly instructions on the app that you can spin 3D, which is totally good. Now, what I don't know is I think, again, they have a Kickstarter that's coming that they're working on right now. I don't know if they're going to support the app going forward, because I think that kind of is an expensive proposition probably, but it was, I think it'd be cool if they could, because that's the first thing. I don't know how many times you built Legos and think of like, wouldn't it have been cool to like be able to do a 360 spin of the model to see like, where does that piece really go?
Yeah.
So to do, and it was funny. We had done a couple, and then I was at work during the week, and I come home, and we had done some smaller ships. She had grabbed this is a pretty big one. She had grabbed one, and she had it 95% done which I was amazed. I'm like, that's pretty cool around that.
Yeah.
She didn't finish because she had switched 2 pieces and didn't realize, you got to the end and like, oh, I can't find the right piece. I'm like, oh, because you had swapped 2 in the thing. So it's pretty, and it's bringing back to my childhood. They even were put in like their special weapons that have little spring loaded actual missiles that shoot. I'm like, oh man, those are the days before they right. And then they banned all that stuff because they said people were going to die.
Put an eye out.
But
yeah.
Right. But now they're all back. It's kind of cool in that. So yeah, I mean, Ben will probably say, well, I've been telling you this for like 2 years, but I finally kind of broke it out. And then there is a whole complete, I think we talked about this we played at Gen Con last year. They have a complete miniature game built on top of it. So you can take them and you can basically do a dogfight, kind of similar to like, I want to say it's like an X-Wing kind of rules on steroids, because you also have power management for the ship and you have to power up the different weapon systems and shields and things like that. And then but you basically have a template type movement to that, but that's pretty fun too. And again, and then they're kind of also encourage, there's some 3D printing. So if you want to add things on, they have some 3D print and STL files, so you can kind of print some of your own parts if you want to add some custom things in there. So
nice.
Really kind of cool to see. I mean, I think once they get their Kickstarter, it'll be interesting to see how much traction they get there too. And on top of that, I think they're based in Beloit, Wisconsin too. So at least part of them. Yeah. So
all right.
Around there too. So,
local-ish.
Yeah. So that's my again,
nice.
Ben's going to be like, you're like 2 years too late, but it's still here. If you happen to see this, it's worth checking out, especially have, I guess, tween type kids also might definitely in that. But as somebody who grew up, I was totally into once I started playing with it. So it's like,
it hit the old Lego nostalgia.
Yeah. And they rather than look like Legos, they look like spaceships, which is pretty cool. So
I had an air conditioning guy in recently to do some work, and he saw one of the Lego kits that we got landed that he hasn't built yet. It's the old NES one. He's like, oh man, I love Lego. And I was like, yeah, this kit's pretty cool. And then we were just talking about what he's like, yeah, I do a lot of the Star Wars stuff. I'm like, oh, do you have the big destroyer or Millennium Falcon? He's like, no, not yet. Here I am talking Legos with, I think he was like 20 or something, and just can't imagine. Yeah, this 40-year-old customer and I talked Legos for 15 minutes.
Yeah.
But,
it's a new world. It's a new world.
So speaking of new world, we've got a new charity army project underway. I mentioned it in kind of my hobby progress. I started clipping and assembling, and we got some inventory done because Josh had a big bundle of stuff from old Seraphon. So is there anything we can use? Kind of picked a few kits, I think, that will add the list build, and then kind of the assembly here over the next month is the goal. So once Bryce is done with all his wedding stuff, we can get to painting and get in that project fully underway. But right now we're kind of inventory list build after our episode with Brendan, which is a lot of fun to talk Seraphon Battle Tome. Now it's just putting stuff together, getting some bases done, and then hopefully painting towards the end of probably the next time we record. We'll be just about ready to really get going on the painting effort.
It's cool. Yep, we got lots of stuff. Now it's time to actually
execute.
Put some sprues or clippers to sprues and glue to plastic. So
that's right. Evidently, I used the wrong kind of glue, according to Dr. Gabe. You can't use Citadel plastic glue.
Why? What does he not use? What did he say he used?
He said I have to, like Tamiya maybe or something.
Oh yeah, there's some good ones. There was I found something really cool too, but it's like only, and then I went to look for it and it was only UK. And so
but there will be some.
I'm kind of really bad. I don't, because I'm in my basement and I don't necessarily have that much air down here. I actually use I think it's the Testers. I tend to use the Testers non-toxic plastic glue.
Okay.
Which is great because then I don't like have a headache.
I'm glad it's non-toxic. Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't have that. So I don't have a headache after doing it for whatever. I don't feel like dying. And it works. I mean, it works pretty good. I do notice it may be a little slower acting than like the Citadel or some of the other ones. So sometimes you get annoyed with it, but and then I pull out the real stuff if I'm really annoyed. But most of the time for terrain and whatever else, I'm using that stuff.
Works, yeah. Let's talk Kickstarter. You have a long list of stuff, so I'm just going to hand this off to the Troy Weiss crowdfunding segment.
All right. So Ty, you're almost done with Gloomhaven on the PC, just in time for you to get. They just announced they're redoing Gloomhaven. I want to say 2. It's like
second
version 2,
edition. Yeah.
second edition, where they're cleaning up some stuff. My guess is a lot of things they learned in Frosthaven, they'll kind of move back, and I think they're going to tweak some of the classes that maybe weren't as quite as balanced as they hoped they were, and some of that. So I just saw that come out, and I thought of you and all those other and everyone. I'm sure that they will sell quite a few of those, and I imagine they'll probably have some kind of an upgrade kit, right? For people that have the first version of it.
Yeah, I think for me to get it, they'd have to add a lot more. Like, I don't need just a second edition.
Yep.
Like, it would have to be a lot of new content, and I didn't get the feel that was it. But also, didn't they announce they're doing a RPG?
Yep. Yeah, and there's also an RPG. I didn't even add that on there. Yep.
So
I don't know I don't know what the timing is on that, but I know that they announced the RPG.
Yeah.
Gloomhaven 2, which could be interesting. Again, they built a pretty cool world there. So, and then the other one is I don't have any over here. Hagglethorn Hollow, which I talked about. These are the guys from the Weta studio down in New Zealand. They did the really cool kind of big resin fantasy village, and that I can't remember what his name in there. Adam Savage was down there again. If you will find the video on YouTube, where he's doing kind of I want to say 2. He's doing some expansion stuff that they had talked about around that. Some really cool, like a castle, I think. And again, if you watch the video, some really cool, because he's got these different parts, and then you're like, oh yeah, those are really cool. And then he kind of puts them together, and they make this really cool kind of old broke down castle, and with a dragon, there's like a dragon kind of thing. So again, really cool, really creative. The only downside, I would like, the original Hagglethorn Hollow took forever and a day to get out there. Yeah. I don't know if they're gonna. I assume they'll do the resin thing again. I assume they learn some stuff there. What I don't know is that what they ended up doing was they also released 3 print models for the same things, I think, through our friends at Printed Scenery, also down there in New Zealand. I don't know if at this time they'll do it the same, because what I would do is like, hey, if they're just going to make the STLs available, pick those up and print them. And then maybe if you really want to get, I mean, the resin is pretty cool. I mean, it's pretty cool. It's in just kind of big, heavy, not your typical kind of stuff, but do you really need that? And then it's to store and whatever. So that'll be interesting to see what the Kickstarter looks like, if it's just the physical ones, or if they also release the 3D models at the same time. So, and then the next one was we were talking a little bit on our Discord on that, is the old Castles and Catapults. Our friends at Renovation, right? Is it Renovation Games? Restoration Games. Yeah, we're not going to renovate. We're going to restore. Restoration Games. I had to look for a game behind me that they did, right? If you do you remember Castles and Catapults, Ty? Was that ever in your
I didn't have it, but I'm aware of the IP.
So if I would go look, I should have grabbed for the show. I think there are a few old pieces from the 80s back over in my basement here somewhere. And I think John has, again, if you ever go in his basement, you just can go shopping. I think he has some like unopened, literally, versions of some of that stuff. But what's interesting is it's not, and this is what actually Raph was kind of going, is like, wait, this feels like a toy and not really a game. And that's what I remember too. Like it was kind of cool to shoot the catapults and knock over the walls. And I didn't dive deep into what they're doing in the Kickstarter, but and again, there's not a lot of nostalgia there, but I'm not quite sure what the audience is there, or if they're really going to make it much more of a deep game than to just launch some stuff. And interesting to see they, like, the old ones were more like a rubber band, literally, that did anything, and they said they got rid of that. So I'm interested to know, like, are they using this, like, flexible plastic or whatever. And
It's
I don't
gonna,
know, my
it's
worry
gonna
is
be
like,
it's gonna be airsoft. You're gonna put a
oh,
a
that could
CO2
be
canister in.
that would get, because I'd be worried like if you're just doing like a bendable plastic, like, well, how long will that will that really last? I mean, you can always get a new rubber band, that's stuff, but if it's out there, and if you never even if you never experience castles and catapults, it'd be good to I think I kept things just because it was like, ooh, this is really cool kind of plastic that we always like, oh, this would be really good terrain, like literally spray paint it, whatever.
Yeah.
You could drop it on a AOS or a battle, a 40K table as just some terrain. So, and then no, Heroescape. Did you play Heroescape, Ty?
So I missed that one, but I always saw the big boards at Gen Con with like the hex terrain and like the guys. So I'm familiar, but I never really got into it.
Yeah. So Heroescape is kind of the hex, little hex that you can stack and build huge and all kinds of different terrain. And then there's little models, and I think there's actually rule set for how they can kind of fight and miniature game. And so and I don't know, I mean, I don't know when it kind of went out of print, but there was I think a couple years ago, or was it even just a year or so ago, Hasbro tried to do kind of through the Hasbro Pulse, tried to do like a kind of revival and some of that, and that actually failed. Like they didn't get enough backers to kind of make that go off, but they were looking at like a $250, I think that was like the lowest in or something like around that. But the development here is that Renegade Games, I guess, has got the license from Hasbro, and they're planning to go ahead and do I don't know if it's exactly, but similar, I think, to what Hasbro was planning last year with their Pulse release. So again, that interesting to see. Interesting, all these kind of older kind of games come back to it. But there was like you said, you'd go to Gen Con and there were tables and tables of really cool things. And I think I believe Ben actually played in an event a few years ago where that, and I can't remember which con. I think it was Gen Con or something else. And he had a lot of fun. It was a fun, because you're like, oh, what is, how fun is Heroescape? But he had a good time with it, and especially again somebody that has a huge setup and a really big board and everything else.
Yeah.
Like that. So cool. All right, I'm going to keep rolling, huh?
I didn't receive anything new since last year recorded or back anything.
What?
So.
All right. So the Crow RPG, not out of the wrap yet. But I don't. And it's The Crow. I don't even know if it's any good, but it's The Crow. So that one of my favorite movies of forever.
Can I make an admission to you?
Yep.
I can't say that I've ever watched start to finish The Crow.
What?
I honestly, I think I've seen it on and I've watched parts of it, but like I never owned the DVD or anything, or like
Devil's Night. So Ty, I'll invite you. We'll do something. Well, it's because literally you watch it on Devil's Night, October 30th. I almost every year I do. On that, and so maybe I'll bring you over for a party.
Viewing party. Yeah.
It is one of my favorite.
Like I know the guy
movies.
got shot filming it.
Brandon Lee, who is Bruce Lee's son, Brandon Lee.
I know there's like
the soundtrack is epic.
He's in because it's all like industrial rock, right? Like
Stone Temple Pilots,
early 90s.
Early 90s.
So because I'm kind of in that. Likely when that movie was made, if it was at 90 or 92 or.
That's a good question. You're gonna make me look up The Crow. I should know if I was that much of a fan, right? I would.
But I think it was around the time where I was probably not a teenager yet.
1994.
94. So I would have been 12. So like I kind of missed it when it released, and then never really like went back and made a point as an adult of watching it. Although like I've probably seen enough of it to be like, oh yeah,
I don't want to take us down. I won't take us down too much of a rabbit hole. I should give you the comic. I also have the James O'Barr original comic that it's based off, because it's really based off a graphic novel, like other thing. I could give that to you because it is. it's a brutal story. And in the graphic novels, I would say worse, more intense than the movie is. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot there. I mean, I always like, in some, The Crow is the love story. That's what I always tell people. They're like, what? And I'm like, no, it's a love story. That's what it's all about. So it's interesting to see again. So it's cool IP. That's what got me into that. But as I showed, that's kind of this Everyday Heroes, which is kind of the new version of modern D20
modern.
That, and they have a bunch of different. I also have PDF versions. They also have done like a lot of movie stuff. So I think it's like a Total Recall pack for it. Kong Island for the recent Kong. Trying to think of another one. I don't know if they're doing I can't remember if they have Terminator. I can't remember. No, Escape from New York.
Okay.
Like, wouldn't that be fun as like a one shot if they're with a decent rule set? Be kind of like something like that. So they're doing a whole bunch of real cinematic. The idea is kind of these cinematic modules on top of the D20 modern rule set or the Everyday Heroes. So
somewhere over there, I have the original D20 modern book from like 93. Whenever they did that.
Yeah, and supposedly, it's interesting. There's if you go again on the internet over there somewhere, I believe they actually had a couple of the real original designers are actually in on this kind of revised rule set that they come in there. So, what else? And then you get some cool. I don't know what I have. Some dice. The Crow also had some miniatures. This one. Do you have I didn't know. Did you do this one, Ty?
I didn't. So I have the 3 volumes of the graphic novel, but I didn't.
The problem is I can't read this because I haven't finished the graphic novel yet. But, I'm interested to crack this open at some point. Which is again, for people who don't have Die is a graphic novel series. Really interesting story again about people that get sucked into this world. And maybe I should just read the back. What's the authentically flawed people from the real world who gather together to play a game but become trapped in a magical realm. That's pretty much, it's a good one-liner about.
And then come back scarred and maimed and
and I love the jump. And then it's like how many
later,
30 it's a bunch of time later. So and then they kind of end up going back in through that. So really interesting. Again, I'm only you're farther than I am around that. And then last, and I haven't even opened this one. I'm excited to play this one. Thunder Road Vendetta. I don't know if you can see, or you guys can't see
the old Thunder.
If you go up there, if I go up there, over there we go. The original 1970 whatever version of Thunder Road, which we played over over again.
Well, and you played it with, you had, I think, me and maybe Josh, because we didn't have Thunder Road when we were kids. So we played the old one. I'd be interested to see what the new one's like.
Yeah, I think that it'll be, and they added a little more depth to it. So it'll be kind of fun. And there's extra boards and things like that too. So
nice.
I'm waiting to kind of open it as just an experience, probably when John is over here and we go through and get to that. So, whew. All right.
Yeah,
crowdfunding coming and already here.
Yeah, that's a rather epic list. It is always amazing to me how many IPs and projects and various things show up, and you're like, I can't believe nobody's done that yet, or here they're doing it again. Like, I'm sure pretty soon we're going to see another CMON Kickstarter that's going to blow everyone away. We just don't know what it is yet. So other cool stuff, not on Kickstarter, but the Lord of the Rings Worlds Beyond Magic set. So 4 commander decks and then like a full set of cards releases, I think officially pre-releases this weekend. I ordered a set booster box of packs and all 4 commander decks. And I'm going to plug a online retailer. So I like to order from like Kick-Ass Mail Order, which is Adventure Games in Oshkosh. I like to order from Noble Knight in Madison, but one thing I ordered for Frosthaven was it's like the folder thing for all the map tiles, and I found it online from Game Nerds with a Z, and they're a shop in Texas that does online orders. So I made my Magic pre-order from them as well, and I got a shipping notification today. So I don't know if because it's pre-release if they can or what, but prices were really good. Shipping is, not too bad, and you get notifications and they send it out. So I have no idea how big their shop is, but like I've been impressed with a few times I've ordered from them. And I tend to, when I like the service I get or I have a success finding something, I tend to check back. So I did my pre-order through them for that rather than like Miniature Market or one of the the big companies, and their price was like $10 better than like Noble Knight and others. So thought I would check that out.
Cool. Yeah, I'm gonna follow your. I'm not as big a Lord of the Rings fan as you are, so I was kind of bouncing around, but like I don't know. So I'll probably just do.
I'll bring the commander
deck or two.
I'll bring the commander decks out, and we'll play them.
And then I will probably grab like one or two of the collector ones, just right, because you got to play the lottery, right?
You got to buy your lottery ticket, the collector pack for that $1 million bounty on the One Ring card.
But I wasn't gonna do and I wasn't gonna do a box of those. That was just a little too reach.
$300-$400.
Yep.
Then so I tend to take a look at Variety and other entertainment news via film and TV and stuff, but one caught my eye probably a couple weeks ago, and I blew up Discord trying to get your attention to see it on multiple channels because they announced that her last name's Ferguson. I don't think it's Elizabeth. I should have looked it up, but she's in Dune. She's Lady Atreides. She's done other stuff. They announced that she is in final talks to take up the role of Mercado from Joe Abercrombie's film adaptation of his book Best Served Cold, the revenge story. Monza Mercado that you and I did for a book the two of us did for book club a while back as a reread, and the director Tim Miller, who directed Deadpool, is tagged to it as well, and Abercrombie did the adaptation. So he's producing, and he actually wrote like the screen adaptation of his own book, or co-wrote. So no idea on the timeline, but incredibly excited to see the First Law world coming to some kind of screen adaptation, and hope it only becomes, then we get like a First Law series or,
I mean, we've talked about it. Yeah. I love this as a jump in point. Like, this is one, because it is like standalone. It kind of you could make it as a film, but it's also super interesting. Yeah. It'll be interesting to see. And the fact that sounds like if they're casting, that's right. That's that's again, nothing's ever for sure, but getting at least to that point means you got something you want, you can actually film, you're getting people attached. So I'll be cautiously optimistic on that one. Cause that could be an amazing, could be another Crow. There we go.
We go.
Cool. And then breaking news is I don't know, I think I told some of us, but I don't think we ever talked about it on here, is we are, I guess they Terrace liked us enough last year that he asked us back this year or next year, I guess 2024, to the Geek Nation Adepticon tour, which if you go look is now up there and ready to go. I need to tell Eric tomorrow, because he's after helping us last year and seeing a little bit of experience, he's like, well, maybe I should just sign up for the Geek Nation Adepticon tour and actually be a participant instead of just that. But we are going to run again games for the opening dinner. Again, gaming. Cool. This year we're going to do probably a Zombicide theme. I think people have said we've done kind of 3D versions of that.
All right.
And so I think we're gonna, and Terrace asks us to lean heavy in the sci-fi stuff. So we'll probably, again, we have kind of the 3D Zombicide Invader 3D board there, but I think we're going to mix it up too and have a couple other of the Zombicide games, probably some Black Plague, because that is our favorite. and probably do kind of take Josh's 3D stuff to the next level with some 3D printing and things like that. So excited to do that. Excited to work with Terrace again. Exciting to help with that tour. It's always fun to kind of meet people and get to have some fun and do all that stuff too. And again, and I know, and we have a bunch of, and everybody kind of people help out too. It's always good to have a bunch of people from our group kind of jump in and help too. It's a great way to kind of spread our news and then also just have a lot of fun. It's fun to entertain people, and they seem to like it. So yeah, if you're interested in Geek Nation Tour, go check it out. Terrace just sent me an email that it went live today. So today
Very
being June 15th.
Mid-month, June 15th. All right. Well, let's throw open the doors to the library and the BoD Theater and talk kind of reading, listening, viewing. Real quick, just to check in, we are doing a book club style discussion as part of our next episode, Shadow of the Gods by John Gwynne, which I know you have at least started. It looks like when you're mowing lawn or maybe driving, you've been getting into it on Audible. I've kind of been paging back through it. We'll have to check if Bryce got it started or Josh. I know they had it queued up for Audible as well. But what are I don't want to spoil too much, and obviously since we're dedicating a conversation to it, but are you enjoying it? Is the pacing good? Are you seeing why I talked about it being such a good character driven story? What are your initial thoughts?
Yeah, no, it's good. I'm about a little over halfway. I'm probably almost to the 2/3 part. Things are getting even more interesting. It was interesting to see how you stepped into the world. And at first you were very much, I'm like, oh, kind of a Viking adventure. This will be kind of interesting, right? And I'm like, all right, I'm at the 60% mark, right? This will be good. Then I think it's maybe chapter 3. All of a sudden you're like, wait, there's some different things going on in this world. And immediately, even when you stepped in before that, it's one of those books again where I don't want to get is John Gwynne, is that right, on the author?
John Gwynne.
Gwynne, yeah. Again, one of these, there are certain books like you step in and you can just feel that there's a world. You're only seeing this little part, right? But this world is completely right. There's a whole world there around you, and you're just you're seeing it through the eyes of the character, and it feels much deeper in that. And so it was almost immediately you got a very much of a sense of, wow, there's a full built world here going on, and you just felt immediately immersed in it. And I think with some of the characters and things that, and then as the plot started to, like I said, there were some moments where, again, the first kind of maybe not supernatural kind of thing kind of shows up. They're like, ooh, that really, all of a sudden I'm starting to get more intrigued. And then as you learn, and no real spoilers, but there's kind of 3 point of view characters. You have Orca, Varg, and Elvar. And it's I mean, right now, I'm going to go Orca as my favorite character at the moment. We'll see how that kind of goes. Elvar is probably running a close second. So what's interesting, two female, super strong female leads in this. And again, but also again, Varg's, his journey, interesting how that kind of works too. And and it'll be interesting to see. You guys, but interesting to see. Right now, they are very separate plot lines. Going through. So interesting to see if maybe you can kind of. I'm trying to see like, oh, maybe some things some of these people might end up in the same place at the same time. Who knows? Or at least some of their actions may impact through some of others. So, like I said, I think I'm in chapter 30 of 53. Yeah, so I'm kind of in that 3/5 of the way through.
I'm trying to remember.
And really enjoying
has Varg gotten his nickname yet?
Yes.
Okay. Couldn't remember when that happens, but I love
that's
I love it.
Yeah.
All right.
So I can definitely see how it's going. I'm interested. Yeah, it'll be good to have a kind of a deeper discussion, and I think we'll figure out how who all read it first, and then we'll probably do a little bit of kind of a recap, probably a spoiler-free recap here, and we'll make sure that if we will definitely do a spoiler-full discussion, but we'll make sure maybe we'll put that at the end of the episode, or maybe we'll even do a separate I mean, I'm even throwing around ideas like if we get enough people that are interested, maybe we actually do we throw something up and we do a live stream and record it, where we can get some other of our faithful fan friends to join in, and we have some discussion, because as we've done that in the past, those have been some really good
a lot of
really
fun
discussions. In some ways, I've always been said like, oh, we should have probably recorded this, because there's some good there's some good stuff here. So excited to go that really. I'm fully bought in. It didn't take me long. Like I said, I think by chapter 3 I was kind of seeing why
it's
you
like a
guys
roller coaster, man.
Yeah.
It starts and then you're climbing the hill, and then it's just shoom, and you're off to the races.
Yeah. And again, and I was calling back to like our D&D campaign, because I was literally in my mind looking at, again, 30 chapters in, how each of these 3 characters, their journey already, right, has been so much different than how they started out in those first 10 chapters of the book. And they've all definitely moved through, and you've learned more and more of the world keeps getting exposed through every interaction. So, and interesting way, again, don't want to go too far, but interesting way how he had, like you said, just having the 3 point of view characters, interesting how he's telling the story through that too. So
awesome. So both of us kind of rereading and first time reading of that. Then I finished Malazan Reaper's Gale, which I think is book 7. Haven't started book 8 yet, but I'll probably do that soon. I'm still making my way through Our Share of Night. I know I've talked about that. It's an Argentinian author, Mariana Enriquez, translated, kind of changes viewpoints and time from like England in the 60s to Argentina in like the maybe 80s, 90s. But very good. Enjoying that one. Just need to get through it. It's pretty long. I'm on page I'm over 400 pages in, and I think I'm like 60% of the way done. I started listening to Justin Cronin. He did the Passage trilogy about vampires and post-apocalyptic. His new book that just released within the last month is called The Ferryman. It's about society in what you think is likely a near future, where humanity is on an island, Prospera, kind of tropical, artistic, clean. Everybody kind of has jobs they like. Marriages are like contracts. But there's kind of this dark undertone that at some point you're retired. And when you're retired, you board the ferry and you go to an island called the Nursery, where you are basically given a chance to reiterate a new iteration. And then kids come from the nursery, well, teenagers really, as wards, and they're placed in families, but you don't know what's happening. And the central character is a ferryman. His job is to pick up the people being retired and take them to the docks and get them on the ferry that takes them to the nursery. And then there's, plot explodes from there, and you're trying to figure out what's really going on and what's happening to him. And he hears something when he takes one of the retirees to the docks. He hears something that triggers a whole kind of like, you start to get that there's something a little more sinister with the nursery and the whole process. And then there's people that don't have the good life, that live in the annex, which is kind of this more packed in like city, and they refer to them as the support staff. So they're the waiters, the house cleaners, the sewage, the street cleaners, and they don't get to experience life as the Prosperans in the and there's this class struggle going on that is fairly interesting. So really enjoying it. The narration is pretty good.
Did you read the Passage books?
Yeah, I did.
Because those are always were on my list for a while. Because I think and you can tell me if I think they got recommended when they were like, hey, if you really like The Last of Us, here's a similar kind of story. And that, but I always I'm like, but is it going to be as good as The Last of Us? And so am
Yeah.
I going to be, or is it different enough
different.
that it,
Very, very different. Yeah, and it gets really, I don't want to say weird, but it gets very different by like the second and third book. The first book was adapted into a television show too. I think Fox did like a TV show a handful of years ago.
Oh yeah, it didn't last very long. I don't think.
No, and they never really got past like the first book, because it kind of ran a season and then I think got canceled. But I enjoyed the first book a lot. Like it was really, really good. So I'm like, yeah, I'm going to check this out. And it's kind of this weird, it's not sci-fi, but there's like the central character, something starts to like break in his brain when he hears this word and this phrase. And now he's trying to figure out what's happening. Why do they do this to people? He's been told that he's suffering from like a brain tumor at some point, and he's starting to think, no, I'm not. Like, I'm not sick. Why am I here? And it's just, it's one of those kind of psychological thrillers with kind of too close to what we're probably capable of in the real world soon, to call it sci-fi. But yeah. Then Landon and I in our travel through the Redwall books, we're on Martin the Warrior, which is like the 6th book in the Redwall series. So we're still making progress there. Then movies. So Landon had watched the Indiana Jones, and he's like, which is the first movie? And I was like, well, Raiders of the Lost Ark. So we watched that. Then he's like, and second, Temple of Doom. And he's like, well, then which one is the third one? I'm like, well, it's The Last Crusade, but it's not really The Last Crusade, because then they did another one. And then because we know that the new one is coming like this summer, I think, any day now. And then we watched 61. So like Billy Crystal directed the Roger Maris, Mickey Mantle story. And I started watching The Night Agent on Netflix. It's based on a book, and that's more like, FBI agent gets a call on a line at night and protects this girl, and now they're figuring out this conspiracy that goes like all the way to the White House. And it's a pretty interesting show. Not good, not great, but I'm enjoying it enough that I might even go check out the book, because I think The Night Agent was a novel written by Matthew Quirk that got adapted to the show.
Cool. I'll just say no, I have not seen it. I did rewatch the original Indiana Jones, because I think who was pushing it, Amazon or somebody was throwing it on there, and I threw it up, and just kind of went through it, because I hadn't watched it kind of end to end in quite a while. So I think it went with I had it on while I was hobbying or something else like that. And I think Sarah came down. Of course, she came down for like the end part, which all the crazy scary part. She's like, I don't know about this. Like this.
I did, and maybe you've seen this. There's a movie that was made back in 2012, 2013 called The Battery. It's on Amazon. It just started streaming. It made like the festival film tour back, 10 years ago. The budget on the movie was $6,000. Guy made it with like his friends, got it in a bunch of, it's a zombie movie, but it's about a pitcher and a catcher, the Battery, that are going up and down the East Coast, post-apocalyptic, like surviving after a zombie outbreak. They were playing baseball in a town when shit went down. Now it's their story. And they stop and play catch at one point, but I was like, baseball, zombies, low budget, let's do it. And I watched it on Amazon, and I actually enjoy it. Like, it wasn't great, a small budget independent film, but it was entertaining enough where I'm like, yeah, that was pretty good in the grand scheme of things. So
cool.
That's it. A lot of viewing and a lot of reading.
I have just really been trying to focus on Shadow of the Gods since probably the last time we recorded, working my way through that. A little bit of, mostly listening. I do have it on, I go back and forth every once in a while a little bit. I think because I'm getting more excited, so then I don't want to wait until I can listen to it. So I will jump in and start reading it on Kindle too and go back and forth. So I'm getting to that point where I'll probably just try and streamline it or mainline it and get to the end here on that. So that's really the only thing I've been reading. I do other other thing I've been working on, I worked through was the Arcs of Omen, which is the 40K kind of the end of 9th edition, those books that came out, just reading the fiction through there. And then that made me, which is basically the Return of the Lion. So interesting how they're doing that and how they set up that. And interesting kind of again, that those stories and fluff are never super, I don't know, they're not super, well, I wouldn't say, like not even as well written as some of the novels even. But it's interesting to see the story. It's interesting how they had the plot. And again, as a game company, you're like, how do we bring in every single faction kind of into the story, right? Because you want to have everybody feel like they could have a narrative. You could play a narrative, something around that. But interesting story again, have all the space hulks that come by, and you have all in Abaddon and and those guys in there. But most of that I was reading the last one around, kind of the Return of the Lion, because that's kind of interesting. And then that's got me jumped in. I haven't read it and started, but my next thing I probably will jump into the book, The Lion, which is really how they're going to tell the story of kind of him coming back. Although I'm a little, I want to say I'm underwhelmed. Well, it's always good though. Because I'm always, you say you're underwhelmed, and then I'm also the one to say you never want to explain too much, right? You always want to leave some gap, especially in like the 40K world, right? Everything can have its own interpretation.
Yeah.
So, so I think you're not going to find like, here's exactly why the Lion's back and what he was doing and all that stuff, right? There's a lot of little smoke and mirrors on some of that. But it is pretty cool to.
He was learning from the Chaos Gods. So
as I'm reading through it, I don't know, like I haven't got far enough, but it's interesting what's going to happen with the whole kind of, what are they, the traitor guys? I don't know what they're, the Unforgiven or Fallen. That's Fallen guys, like, because there's a little bit of like him actually bringing in a few of those guys back into the fold, possibly. I don't know. We'll see how it all. And then they start. And then that's that's gonna be the big reveal when they're the new 5th Chaos faction that comes out.
Yep. They've got everything they need to be Chaos.
Yeah, so that's been a little, I shouldn't say I don't read, because it's funny, you're always like, well, I'm only reading one book, but I'm never not reading some, but really I've been reading. Yeah. It's just I haven't been reading novels, I've been reading other stuff on that. And then I just been watching a lot of random stuff. Watched the Super Mario Brothers movie. I'm not a big Super Mario's person, like it was not it was kind of off my time. But watch it was entertaining, it was fun. I learned a lot and got to see things and watch that with Sarah when we were out there. And then watching
Sarah singing Peaches all the time.
She wasn't singing Peaches. It was funny. She wasn't singing Peaches all the time, but then when she was on, I can't remember what she on. Oh, then she was on her Switch playing Animal Crossing, and she had her character totally dressed up as the Peaches princess. And she's like, "Look, I'm in the So
I heard a guy on, I think it was YouTube or TikTok, did as Gollum, Precious. So the Peaches song, but about the ring and Precious. I don't know if you've seen that.
I know I have not seen that.
It's pretty good.
And then watching a couple miniseries. I think Arnold is on Netflix, which is Arnold Schwarzenegger. Again, I've been kind of a fan of Arnold back in his bodybuilding days and the old but even that I learned a lot kind of watching that series through that. Although I still have one left. I haven't watched the last one, which is the last one I think is more about his political career and stuff in California around that. But it's interesting to see how he came through and that. So good one there. And then the other one I just got turned on to is on HBO or Max now, is Angel City, which covers I know zero about women's soccer, but Angel City FC, which is the women's soccer club in Los Angeles, expansion team from 2022. That's basically and I got turned on here was a Natalie Portman interview, because Natalie Portman, who also knows nothing about soccer, but she was like a big promoter of women, is like, hey, we should have. And so it's really, women run football club. It's crazy. It's you can't, I've only watched 2 of that episodes too. you can't script what like the story they have there. You can't script it. But it's amazing again how they are. They were selling out a 22,000 person stadium and for women's professional soccer, which is unheard of.
Have you, obviously not women's soccer, but have you seen Welcome to Wrexham at all?
No, I have not. I haven't done that one.
So good. So good. Just what Rob McElhenney and Ryan Reynolds coming in and taking their marketing Hollywood superpower connections and shooting money and everything into this like minor league Welsh soccer team is pretty awesome.
Justin. Yeah, that might be on my list too, because I've heard good things about that. And it is again interesting just to being I coached a lot of volleyball and playing on that, which is and women's sport and some of that too. So it's interesting. It's a lot of it is also just the kind of the inequality, but also again, and there's interesting, they have a lot of good conversation around, women's sports are, the big thing is, nobody watches women's sports. That's why they're not, but it's kind of a catch-22, but of course they're never on TV and they don't have the production that right. And there's some of that. So if you kind of level out some of the stuff, would you really, where would it end up on some of that stuff too? So it's interesting what they're doing there. And even without that, just the drama that they're in the show of kind of the real life drama with the players and that team is pretty cool. So
have you, speaking of Netflix, have you seen Facing Nolan, the Nolan Ryan documentary?
Yes.
I watched that finally, and I loved it because that was, talk about a steroid adrenaline shot of nostalgia from when I was a kid. Like, Nolan Ryan was experiencing his like pitching over 40 renaissance. And that was just super cool. All the people they interviewed and like seeing the game film of like his big moments. I was like, holy cow, that was insane. How late into his pitching career and like injury free and his workout regimen and like his approach to the game. It was just super cool inside baseball. Like,
and I had never, again, similar. I had never, like that early part of his career, I had no idea on that. And then I think it was really good because it's starting to be like I don't know, right, 20 some years ago or more than that, even, right, that he was. So it is a little bit like it was good to see that back because it kind of fell out of your memory and remember that because he was literally one of a kind, like right.
Never been anyone like him and never has been since. To dominate in a game of where usually your prime is 26, 27 years old. To be like dominant at 45, pitching a no-hitter, like, and his records will truly never be touched. At the end, they interview Randy Johnson about the 5,000 strikeouts, and Randy Johnson's like, I had 4,000. Like, how could anyone ever get to the 5,700 that he had?
No, that's a really good one. Sorry, we're going then so all the non-sports people, hopefully you can come back. We'll talk about game stuff again, but
it got me all fired up, and then I started looking at APBA baseball card sets, and I'm like, that's the last thing I need to do is go spend $500 to play it once or twice. All right, so that gets us through the library into what'll be a relatively brief main topic, but I thought of some questions. These could be discussion questions. It doesn't have to be an interview, but Troy, I jotted down some thoughts in the moments before recording that, I want to get inside the mind of Troy. And since we don't have all four of us, I thought it would be good just to fire away. So you haven't had a chance really to preview or review these, so it'll be kind of fresh for you. But I'm interested in your thoughts. So the first question for you is, why do you choose the armies to play that you have? So when we think about Age of Sigmar, that would be Sylvaneth. What motivated you to play them? And then the even more difficult question, maybe, or maybe it's easy, is 40K, and why like the hard lean into the Ultramarines, and then you've dabbled with Necron and Gene Stealer cults. But let's start with Age of Sigmar and Sylvaneth.
Yep.
Why Sylvaneth?
So partly, again, Age of Sigmar was right. I was late to that. Like you guys were like, oh, let's play Age of Sigmar or whatever. And so I was very late to that party. And then when I got in there, there was no real, like, I think if there would have been like more of the elf faction, a true elf faction, I might have leaned into that. So some of it was the Sylvaneth were the closest kind of, I mean, they are elves, right? But they were the kind of the closest thing to elves. And I really like the models, even though they were somewhat intimidating. I mean, the very, I mean, especially the current, I think Kerneth Hunters of the Sylvaneth were like, boom, like that was the model. Like, look at those guys. Like, oh, let's just get an army with those guys. And then all the rest of the everything else in the army too really called to me and some of that. So some of that was like, hey, how can I want to be kind of elf? They were the closest thing to elves. And then, yeah, certain models in that range just like immediately grabbed me.
So wood elves and aesthetics. Got it.
Yep.
All right. Now this one I want to unpack. And let's start with the Ultramarines.
Ultramarine. Now you're gonna,
What
because
was
I've
it that
probably been
made you-
playing
it's a
Ultramarines
long
for
time.
20 years. Yeah. So
Yeah.
like for 20 years. I mean, my snarky answer is because they're the best, right? Because they are like, like if you're gonna play Marines, play the best Marines, and so that's the Ultramarines. I also do like blue. I mean, like blue is one of my favorite colors. So that probably had a little bit to do with it around that. Because
had you liked yellow, do you think you would have played Imperial Fists? Had you liked red, maybe a Blood Angel?
Yeah. I mean, well, you used to play a lot of Blood Angels. You know that I basically figured the Blood Angels were only one step away from complete heresy. So I've kind of changed my tunes now, because I mean, like the other Flesh Tears may become my new thing as I've changed over the years here. But yeah, I think a lot of it was just like the Marine. They are everything the Marines are supposed to be, and they're blue. So that made a pretty easy call. And that was probably, again, I've always been Ultramarines since the 90s probably. So
all right. So and then you started kind of a Necron journey.
Yeah, and Necron was, I think, I mean, part of it might have been the Terminator aesthetic.
Okay.
Around, right? Because even the warrior guys were pretty cool. And I think it was literally like I got in, it was like I was at like an auction at like RockCon, where at their thing it was like, oh, here somebody was dumping their like a starter kind of like, now it would be like a combat patrols type size of like Necrons. And I'd been kind of thinking about it, and it was just like, oh, okay, here we go. Here's my start. And then kind of built on from there. So it was a little bit of an impulse, but I was always kind of drawn to the cool kind of, that robot techie vibe that wasn't like Tau or anything weird like that. But.
Okay. And then the one that I haven't really been able to unpack is the insidious Gene Stealer cults. Like, standing in direct opposition to everything the Imperium and the like.
They're probably their most fun guys. But you know what that is? That's literally out of Space Hulk. It's because I painted the whole army for Space Hulk, and then I was like, oh, I have a 40K army to play.
I could play these.
I'm not gonna like end up and being not lazy or lack of time. I was like, well, I'm not gonna paint a whole different army. I'm just gonna take these guys, turn them into my new 40K army. So they are probably right now. They are my latest and greatest. Like, I've been playing them more often the last few years than anything else. So
do you have any thoughts about what might be your next army, like outside of revamping or adding to those? Like, have you started
I have some of the new Space Dwarf guys. I have a whole bunch of those guys sitting on my shelf.
Okay.
League of Votan. Viva Votan. Yeah. Okay. So at some point I'll probably start playing with those. Like I said, rebuilding a Marine army that will probably be Flesh Tears as the next one, and we'll see when I come back to Necron. Like I got like I don't know, maybe it was kind of, again, I was kind of being the, like, everybody's doing Necrons. Maybe I don't need to do Necrons, but I have a ton of Necrons. Yeah, I literally have 3,000 points of Necrons probably that I'll come back to at some point. Part of it is I got frustrated with the paint scheme. I was trying to find kind of a cool paint scheme that was easy enough to do, and I couldn't quite get it to. All my ones that I thought looked cool, like, were too dark when I put them on the table. Like close up, I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. And you put them on the table and they just look like a black skeleton. And so I was frustrated to try and figure out, like, okay, how do I, so I'll get there. I just need to figure out, like, how do I highlight, or what do I, there needs to be some kind of light accent, I think, on that in the scheme to make it pop, because I was like, anything I thought was really cool close up was not like there. So that's why I got frustrated, and I'm like, all right, I'll give up on. If I think of a really cool, or find a really cool scheme, I may go hog wild, but we'll see.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited to apply my Necron paint scheme that I've developed across the models. All right, so you are sitting down as you became an adult, and you were given a player's handbook of just 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons, so the core character classes. What class have you chosen for your real life?
For my real life?
Yeah. What class most embodies your approach to life? It doesn't have to be like career or anything, but and then you have to convince me why it's not Paladin.
Well, it's funny, like, as you were going through this, I'm like, oh, kind of like a fighter, and then I'm like, oh, but like a good fighter, oh, that would be a Paladin, right?
You are often described as one of the nicest people in the world, so I equate that to Paladin.
Yeah.
For your altruism.
Who's the guy from the movie? I can't remember the character's name. He's the
the
NPC
Yank,
that
the former Red Wizard Thayin. Always walks in a straight line.
Yep. So it's funny, like, my I want to say, was it my first-ish character? So literally, like, freshman year of high school, whatever, like, my first character was actually an assassin.
Oh.
Yep.
And then you matured and you
Karan,
learned
Karan the assassin. It was pretty, like, we used to, that was the old, we literally played my because my first, like, dungeon master was actually my Spanish teacher. I think I told you to start one of my teachers. Yeah. And so we'd play in class, which was always kind of funny, in Spanish, which somewhat Spanish, because none of us knew enough Spanish to quite be fluid. So there's a lot of, English, Spanish around stuff, or a lot of
THACO doesn't translate.
A lot of notes that were passed in different languages. So, but
funny. All right. Now this next one, we've talked a lot recently about adaptations. So what book do you want to see become a game as an adaptation you'd most like to see? So, and it could be video game, it could be role-playing board game, but what novel would you most like to see adapted to some kind of game? And then we'll flip that and go, what about a book or film? The game, what game IP would you like to see made into a book or film? So we'll start first with a book that you'd most like to see turned into some kind of game.
Book to game. Well, I think they did it, though. I'm just going through my thing. How about Nine Princes in Amber?
Okay.
But I think there actually was an Amber Diceless, Amber Diceless RPG.
Okay.
But could you do an actual, like, computer RPG? Would be kind of cool. Or what's another one? And I don't know. Maybe you could do a wild. How would you do? Maybe that's a challenge. How would you do a Sandman RPG? That would be.
That could be really good.
Yeah, you'd have to use a very kind of probably non-standard rule set kind of thing, but it could be, you could do some really, there'd be some fun. It'd be interesting to think about the engine that you could use for something like that. I'm sure there's some out there that would be, and I'm thinking you'd probably you'd tell more episodic probably kind of stories or something, but
yeah,
there we go.
I like it.
There's something there.
And then let's flip that. What game, could be a board game, could be a card game, would you most like to see as a film or TV adaptation, or book for that matter?
That's not Battleship.
I wish that wasn't a film.
For some reason I've watched that way more often than I should. I'm trying to see. I look on the shelf, like the one that first comes would be like, but it's kind of like it's kind of reversed because it's already like Nemesis is really a version of Alien. So taking Nemesis and turning it into a movie would just be another version of Aliens probably. But then I see another one on my shelf and I don't know if it's a good one. Would be Kemet. Think about Kemet the movie.
Yeah, or
there might be something there.
Television series.
Or right?
Yeah.
You could tell, of this ancient Egypt or kind of a fantasy, because I don't know what's.
Yeah, it's like
is there a fantasy?
Realism.
Yeah, is there a good magical Egypt movie out there? I don't know.
No.
Yeah,
I mean The Mummy.
That's not. Yeah,
but
that's not That's not Stargate. I guess Stargate might be the closest, but that's more sci-fi than fantasy. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe so. Nobody. Well,
so I've got one
idea, but
I've got one for you. I want Twilight Struggle. I want a Cold War Netflix series that follows those events. I think we're far enough from the Cold War that we could get a really good Twilight Struggle as a show.
So and this is a tangent, but and we should have covered it in thing, is the Babylon 5 animated series return. Have you seen that?
Mm-mm.
That's in the works. So Michael J. Straczynski's writing that, and they're bringing back. I don't know if you're a Babylon 5 fan, but that was one of the best shows ever. And it was basically, again, them telling kind of a very political, Cold War kind of story in a space station, right? And with that, so that's what made me think, as you said that. So yeah, that's going to be interesting to see that come out there.
The other TV show that I know the world needs is Frosthaven. But that brings me to my next question for you. Are we going to play Frosthaven all the way through?
So how about, I'll have two answers. I don't know that I'll play it all the way through. I think you will play it all the way through. You will find there will be a different, at some point, I think some of us will tap in and out more, but you will drive it. You will probably drive it to the end. And what's good is we have the Frosthaven 5.5 or 6 or 7 that it'll be. Yeah. And I think you have enough people that will help you get it to the end.
Yeah, I'll definitely try to see that one through. Or they'll put the digital version out, and then I'll just crush it out that way.
But there is something, I mean, I don't want to lose, in some ways, the most fun of Frosthaven is the physical. I can definitely see why Gloomhaven is the physical opening of the new stuff, the stickers, the board. There's something there that. That's as much fun as the actual, playing of the scenarios and so forth.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Let's see. Which board game have you not played that would shock fans of the show? We talked
That's an easy one. Twilight Imperium.
Yeah. Oh man, we gotta change that. All right. Which board game is at the top of your want to play list? That you maybe haven't got to the table yet, but you really want to play.
So we're gonna leave Thunder Road Vendetta off the list because that's the top of the one, and then just look at the other shrink wrap games on my probably now. I really want to get the new I have not played the new version of Nemesis, and I actually haven't even played I'd love to play the old version with you, even any version with you guys to take through it. But it's always a little I don't know. Nemesis is a little bit of a love-hate game too, so it's because it's kind of an experience. It's not really a game. I would call it that. That's the and sometimes you have a good experience and sometimes you have a bad experience.
For sure. All right. And then the last one, this is always one of my favorites. You're having dinner, like a dinner party, and you can have 4 guests. We've talked about what authors, we've talked about, what people from pop culture, but this is what book characters are you inviting to this dinner? And you can invite 4 characters from literature, preferably fiction. And I'll even it could be graphic novels or comic books too. Like if you want Sandman there, Sandman can be there.
Yeah, Sandman can come too. Let's see. So I'm cheating. I'm going to go through my little books here. Okay. I don't know. So I don't know who we're going to invite. I don't want to give any spoilers. We're going to say I'm going to invite Harrow from Harrow Hark, Numagenesis from Harrow the Ninth. She may actually be 2 people, but that's a spoiler. I don't know who the guy is. We're going to bring the guy from Kings of the Wild.
Okay.
I can't remember his the main
character,
the main guy there, who I don't have his character name in front of me. Trying to think of a good. We're going to invite Harry Dresden.
Okay.
Right, because you just have to. And then I feel like I was saving one chair for a 40K character. We're gonna invite. I don't know if I was gonna say Eisenhorn, but I don't feel like he'll be a lot of fun. So it's gonna be somebody from the retinue. Yeah. So I can't. Probably one of the women from the retinue. I can't remember her name either, but like the acrobat assassin, Clara, because I think she was in both Eisenhorn's and Gideon's retinue. So we'll invite her because she'll have some stories.
All right,
that'd be good.
There we go.
That was good. I don't know that I would. Yeah, that's a good question because I don't know that. You may ask that and get completely different answers every time you ask it.
Yeah, it's who you're feeling like having dinner with tonight. Yep. I like it. All right.
I want to see that picture. That you visualize that table. It's a little scary, but that
I like Harry Dresden there. That'd be fun. I want to add Call Shivers. I want Call Shivers.
Oh, yep.
But I could just do a dinner party of all Abercrombie.
You're right. Right. You could
Call Shivers, Ricka, Glotka, and I don't know, probably Logan.
Oh, yeah.
But good stuff, Troy. All right. Well, hopefully people enjoyed that look behind the curtain. But that brings us to our end of show kind of wrap up. We are in the midst of convention/tournament season. I know Origins is kicking off, I think, next week.
Next week, yeah. Hopefully, just after this comes out, hopefully.
I got to double check. I don't know for sure if Paul and Jen were going to go or not this year with Anvil 8 and their stuff, but they may be there. But I don't know much else of other people we know that are going this year. Gen Con, I think you're making a weekend trip out of it.
Yep.
Coming up first weekend in August, the 3rd through the 6th. Bryce and Tom and I are going to NashCon 3rd weekend in August. That's the plan as of now. And then we hit fall and there's a bunch else going on, which we'll talk about at some point. But
yeah, I think local people here, I think Gamehole has their event stuff going out.
Yeah.
I don't know when Event Reg is soon or is. I I think you can buy your badge. I just bought my badge.
Badge Edge is open
for that.
Yep. Games list, largest RPG game selection. Like, it's pretty crazy.
And then Dragonfall is in Lake Geneva a couple weeks later. I'm also signed up for that one. Going to try and play some 40K. That's my target for actually getting back to playing some. It's like a friendly-ish tournament, I think so.
Good deal. Well, like and subscribe. Those should be located somewhere around if you're one of the 30 people watching via YouTube. Comment, download, whatever, everything helps. And definitely goonhammer.com. Make sure you're swinging by the page and checking out some new hobby articles starting, some cool Shatterpoint coverage, a lot of other content, always updated, a lot of 10th edition stuff. If 40K is your jam, some really good coverage on Goonhammer. Twitter at Playin Slayin Show, Troy's website with all the Space Salt goodies and his Horus Heresy reading list, basementofdeath.com, and all our emails. So, any final thoughts, Troy?
Just we're gonna keep. I think we got some hobby momentum started. We'll try and keep it going, and excited to get some more gaming in here soon. So
absolutely is. Summer's always a little bit of a slowdown for me personally, just due to baseball and other stuff. But once we're past summer and we get back to the 9 months of rain, cold, and snow, that'll pick back up for me. All right. Well, thanks for listening, watching. Keep the dice rolling, the drinks on ice, and no matter what, keep playing and slaying.